Tanu, are you there? everybody. Good evening in India. Good morning in the United States and the West. And good afternoon in Europe. So welcome everybody. I see that we have many people joining. That's why we gave you a few minutes to keep joining. This is the first seminar, the first webinar in a series of 3, focused on self-care. And we already have our amazing panelists joining. So I'm gonna ask everybody to put your video on so we can say hi. Today we are kicking off this series of 3 webinars focused on self-care, and everything is been possible. Thank you to the Rekhi Center for Happiness at the Institute of the Indian Institute of Technology, and I see that Dr. Saamdu, you're already here. So I see Mr. Rekhi Singh as well. I see Dr. Tia Gansara. So I'm gonna ask you to put your videos on so you can join.
Louis, it wants you
to give us permission to enter.
You are the.
I'm doing it right now.
No, still not. Says you cannot start the video because the host has stopped it.
Yeah, I think.
Well, you can definitely hear that we're here. Hi, everyone.
Yes, so
Hello.
Definitely you're here. So maybe you can say a few words. I can start introducing. Yes, actually.
Yes, definitely. In the meantime, I'm Dr. Tia Kansara. I'm the CEO of Replenish Earth Limited. We've been really asking many questions around well-being. What is it that creates that sense of place and happiness in physical environments? So we decided amongst all of us that we really wanted to put a webinar series together that could delve into subjective well-being, gross national happiness, some of the incredible work from the Rekhi Center, and also to delve into well-being in situ. So how do you replenish Earth from home? We often talk about the well-being of the planet. What is it that we need to do in our home environments? So you'll be hearing from all of us from the 3 webinars. We've got a number of different discussions that are coming up. It's going to be amazing. And yeah, thank you from me, and thank you for this incredible collaboration.
I see that Professor Manas Mandal, you are.
Yeah, I can. Now I can see you. Good evening. Yes. Good morning to you, probably.
So welcome very much. We'll have your webinar on Wednesday, and we are very excited about that topic. We really need to focus on self-care right now.
Thank you.
And I see Dr. Saamdu and Mr. Rekhi. So welcome, and we are going to focus today on this topic that is going to be led by Mr. Rekhi. We are going to start focusing on consciousness and and then Dr. Saamdu is going to be talking about mindfulness. So welcome everybody again, and we are going to start with the topic of consciousness. And for that, we are going to start showing you the presentation from Mr. Rekhi, and it's already recorded. So we are going to play the video, and then we are going to open questions for Rekhi, and then we're going to follow with Dr. Saamdu talking about the super important topic, especially right now with this pandemic, being mindful and how to be living with a mindful mindset. And then we're going to end with a meditation. So by the way, I'm Luis Gallardo. I'm the founder of the World Happiness Fest. I'm super happy and honored to be here with so many luminaries talking and bringing some light about the science behind self-care. So let's start with Mr. Rekhi. I'm gonna play the video.
Good day, everybody. I'm very happy to be with you today, and I have an exciting topic, spirituality and awe during this anxiety pandemic. I've grown as a Sikh and been raised religious, but for me personally, spirituality and religion are the same. Religion providing a structure for spirituality. Scientists have found again and again that those people who have a spiritual practice or religious beliefs, they are less anxious. There is a deep connection between spirituality and emotional well-being because of the emotions that are created of optimism, gratitude, and acceptance. Then another emotion is generated from spiritual awakening or spiritual practice, and that is an emotion of awe. In that emotion, the brain aperture opens up. But let's first talk about this present situation of this coronavirus, COVID-19, which has caused so much of anxiety, a collective anxiety amongst all of us, a mass anxiety. Probably it's because of the uncertainty that it's creating and a feeling of a loss of control. Yes, we are faced with uncertainty and we feel we are going downhill. Many people will view uncertainty as dangerous. And but life is uncertain and we have to get comfortable with this uncomfortable uncertainty. Lack of control is also there, and a sense of helplessness, which is also giving us anxiety. Can spirituality help? Yes, let's talk about it. So whenever we talk about spiritual journey, the aim is how can I live my life better? Everybody has their idea about spirituality. Some people will talk about a higher power, connection with a higher power. Some people will talk about harmony, getting harmony between internal and external worlds. And there is people looking for a meaning and a purpose, a deeper meaning and a purpose in life. And then some people will talk about meditation. Meditation always helps in reducing stress. Most significantly, I will be talking about waking up, a spiritual awakening, and figuring out who I am, and more importantly, who I am not. Just to mention that when spiritual awakening takes place, the emotion of awe is generated. I'm going to now invite you to look at these pictures selected at random. You will see the pictures are changing. You have an attention switch in your brain which can focus on any of these pictures, and that picture actually comes inside your brain. Light is reflected through the retinal senses and an image is created inside the brain, and you look at it inside you. So the pictures are changing, but the core you is not changing, or the observer you is not changing. That remains the same. There's so many things happening in the outside world and you can look at them, but that core you, the observer you, does not change. That is called your seat of awareness or seat of consciousness. You're always aware, you're always conscious. It is 24/7 awake, even when you're dreaming and not dreaming, because that's how you get aware that you're dreaming or not dreaming. But we are not able to connect with this core self or the observer self because there are distractions, and that distractions keeps us away. The distractions are outside world, thoughts, emotions, and actions. The outside world is presented to you through a moment. A moment is presented to you. That's a gift. That represents the outside world. It's like the drop water representing the ocean. Ocean is in the drop and drop is in the ocean. That moment represents the outside world. It is the outside world is inside the moment and moment is inside the outside world. You bring that moment inside, the mind creates thoughts, lots of thoughts. They're happening all the time. And the heart creates emotions and you take actions. Our life is busy in these four activities and we are unable to connect with the observer self or the core you. We have multiple selves inside us, which I'm calling the physical self, thinking emotional self, the ego self, and most importantly, the observing self. I want you to know that the human species is probably the only species which can observe itself. Our brain can observe itself, our mind can observe itself. So these are the observing self is the true self, and the physical self, thinking emotional self, and the ego self are the superficial selves, and which camouflage the observing self. And I'm going to now discuss as to why I am not the physical self and the emotional thinking self and the ego self. Let's look at the physical self first. In the physical self, okay, this is my hand. If I cut off my hand, or both hands, the physical self changes, but the core you, the observer self, does not change. When I looked at the mirror when I was 5 years old, and when I look at the mirror when I was 25 or 30 and so on, the images have been changing, but the core you that has been looking at the physical self does not change. So I am not the physical self. This has a lot of implications, you know. If I am not the physical self, what significance does death have? I don't want you to answer that, but that's a good question. The next one is the thinking and emotional self, which pulls us in, and we sometimes get confused that we are the thinking self and the emotional self. But if I ask you to figure out where the thoughts are generated in your mind, you'll figure out. Sometimes it comes from left, right, sometimes from the front of the head. For me, it comes from the center of the head. If I can observe my thoughts and those thoughts are changing, then I'm not that thought. It's like the clouds in the sky. The clouds change their color and move away, but the sky does not. So neither am the physical self nor am I the thinking and emotional self. Now let's talk about the ego self. The ego self is a little hard because the ego self is the identity that I create for myself. It is my documentary. It's a mental construct of who I believe I am. It's a story I tell myself repeatedly. And I identify with that documentary, that story, and therefore it is kind of same as me. This documentary is created based on various things like my job, my possessions. I have a big house, I have a big car, my appearance. Appearance has become a very important part of our ego self, our documentary. Some beliefs that I might be holding, then my accomplishments and achievements. I got so many medals. So all of that becomes a part of my ego self, my documentary. But remember, this is a story that is changing. Documentary is changing every day. The core you, the observer self, does not change. So therefore, I am not the ego self also. So what happens if I step outside my identity? That's a very important question. If I look behind the curtain, what happens? If I let go of my ego, the weight on my shoulders is reduced. And another thing happens, and that is an emotion of awe is generated. Awe is an overwhelming feeling of being in the presence of something vast and greater than the self. In ego, I feel happy when I feel most important. I shine, I feel something very important about myself. I got a medal, I got a salary raise. It's about I. That's why the I never leaves me, the ego never leaves me. But in awe, what happens is it's about something else bigger than me, which I see, and I get that emotion. We'll talk a little bit more about awe now. Awe is historically generated in places of worship during religious or spiritual practices, a spiritual awakening that takes place. Awe is also known to be generated after a traumatic event. The natural wonders, stunning sunrises and sunsets have also caused awe. Women have felt awe during childbirth, and we have also felt awe when we see some big personalities that we admire. Music, paintings have also created awe. Awe is a complex emotion, and the important ingredient is that you must be perceiving vastness, something bigger than you, something larger than you. And it's such a huge adjustment which takes place, that the brain structures are changed. A cognitive realignment takes place. Self-transcendence takes place, which means that the ego self is diminished in a positive manner. You feel insignificant in a positive manner. And during that period, lots of happy chemicals are generated, most of which is the love chemical oxytocin. As you know, probably, that oxytocin is released when mothers deliver babies and during breastfeeding. That creates a bond with the kid. Here in awe, this oxytocin creates a bond with everybody. You start loving everyone, everything, and every event. It is acceptance which takes place, and you feel very interconnected. That is the power of awe. No spiritual discussion can be done without mentioning God. There is a God's will, and we truly have two main worries. What if I don't get what I want? And what if I get something I don't want? We know, or we want to decide what life should be, and we seem to know what will make us happier. And many times things happen that is not what you want. So God's will and your will are kind of different. I mentioned that people with religious beliefs are happier, but I just want to clarify there are two kinds of people with religious beliefs. One who believe that God is a punishing God. They are not happy. One who believes that God is a loving God. Those people are happy because they accept whatever happens and they are able to adjust easily and they make peace with reality. The law of karma that we talk about also creates anxiety because it's about rewards and punishment. When I get a reward, I feel entitled, not gratitude, because of my karma. And when I get punishment, I'm unhappy in any case. I'm now going to tell you a story. I'm coming to the close of my presentation. I'm going to tell you a story. I want you to go back into your childhood, the kidhood, and there's a school teacher telling a story to her students. The story is about a girl who gets a vivid dream. She becomes a super girl in the dream. She's got so much of energy. She walks, then runs and climbs up a wall easily, and from the wall she flies, and she flies the skies and reaches a land of fairies. Life is so wonderful. She's got so much of strength. All of a sudden, things change. It becomes dark, and in a dark place, all of a sudden, where there are lots of animals. In her dream, she's seeing all these animals, a dragon spitting out fire of coronavirus, and she feels very scared. All her strength now disappears. The dragon comes very close to her, and the death is certain. She has no strength to move. She has no strength to do anything. The teacher asks the students, and I'm asking you, what would you do when you're faced with that situation? In my story, The kids were very, very scared. They had emotions of fear written all over their faces. Then all of a sudden, one girl started laughing. Girl started laughing. She said, I know the answer. The teacher asks her, what is the answer? She says, I will just wake up. I will wake up. And what happens when you wake up? When you wake up, the observing self becomes important. There is a mess out there, but you're observing it. There's all sorts of problems out there, but you're observing it. You're not a part of it. In observing self, there is awe. And in awe, the superficial selves disappear. The emoting self, the thoughting self, the ego self, the physical self, they all disappear. You are engaged with the observing self, your true seat of consciousness, your true seat of awareness, and you have a spiritual awakening. And when that happens, nothing actually changes, but everything is different. Also, can this corona be an awe experience for us? Surely it can be. We'll go through this and we'll be happy. It is just a passing phase. It will create an awe experience, and I'm sure all of you will go through it and feel very happy. And I wish that you feel a sense of awe. Thank you very much. You have been a wonderful audience. It has been so good talking with you. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I look forward to that. Thank you very much.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Mr. Rekhi Singh. And beautiful slides. So many great animations. Everybody's welcome to ask questions to Mr. Rekhi. I want to acknowledge that, of course, Mr. Rekhi Singh is the honorary president of the Rekhi Center at IIT, and he's as well a CEO. And actually, I would like to ask you about that. I mean, the first question would be, how do you wake up yourself when you are asleep? And second is, what is a conscious CEO? How do you actually lead? And what is the difference between a CEO that is conscious and somebody that is not awake?
Thank you, Louis. Thank you very much. I'm not able to start my video. If you are able to do that for me, it says that you have to do that.
Okay, I'm going to try, but I don't see that option. Anyway, we can hear you very well, and we see your picture as well.
Okay. Well, you asked multiple questions. First of all, you asked about the CEO question. And yes, I'm a CEO of a software company. And for me, I found that if you can manage the emotions of your employees well, and if you can generate positive emotions in your employees, then you have a very successful company. So nowadays, or at least for me, the CEO is actually a chief emotions officer.
That's super important. And how do you actually manage those emotions? Do you have any specific techniques for that?
I have found if you can just listen to the person, that itself helps. People are very smart. People are very intelligent. Somehow there is not enough available for them to share their feelings, and people don't have time to allow the other person to share his feelings with you. So for me, if I'm able to talk to the person, if he shares the feelings, I think, and he becomes aware of what's going on, he is able to resolve his issues quite well.
That's really, really important. We are going to be talking with Dr. Saamdu about mindfulness. Is that something that you incorporate in your daily life? Do you incorporate meditation and mindfulness as part of your practice?
Absolutely. Mindfulness is very important. I mean, to me, mindfulness is sustained attention for the present moment. And truly, as I had said, all we have is that present moment. And we are either living in the past which is gone, or the future, which is an imagination. So Samdu's meditation is always helpful, which helps you to bring to the present moment. But for a Sikh, the meditation is on the hymn or the Shabad, which is from the Guru that we have, which is sung in our golden temples, in our Gurdwaras. We meditate on that hymn, and that is our meditation. And truly, that brings awe.
Thank you so much for your kind words and for your wisdom. Dr. Sandu, I see that you are here. I don't see your video, but I guess that I can hear you as well. Do you have any thoughts, any comments about Mr. Rekhi words?
Thank you, Luis. In fact, I'm not able to switch on my video, same problem. It says that I'm being blocked by the host, but nevertheless, that everyone can hear me, it's okay. What I feel about Mr. Rekhi, actually I awe him myself, is that he is not a CEO, he's not a business person per se, but he's a great spiritual human being with a lot of spirituality. The way he talks, the way he moves, the way he conducts himself is beyond belief. And I will connect with what he had to say about who am I really. I'll just take that trains and continue through the process of mindfulness to tell the audience a bit about what is mindfulness, how can we discipline ourselves, and basically trying to find out also from the elements, from the planetary side, what are we really? And with that, I'll be also adding the meditation for 10-15 minutes.
So why don't
Luis,
we?
there are a couple of questions here which are interesting. One is some Prashant asking whether how do we shed our ego and to feel the emotion of awe. May I go ahead and answer that? And there's another one which I see from Dr. Day about in sleep, how do we take decisions? So shedding off our ego is a very big challenge. But the moment we realize that we are a little dot in this whole cosmos, in this whole galaxy, even our Earth is a small dot compared to what is going on, and that generally helps. So yeah, there I am. So truly, if we look around ourselves, outside us, and are able to figure out that we are a small little thing in this big universe, that is a starting point for shedding off our ego. In our ego, we feel so self-important. Life revolves around the I. And the moment we look around and see that there is so much more outside there, and I'm just a small little dot in this whole world, that is a starting point. The other question was, how in sleep, how do we know? How does the observer self know? The observing self is observing, and it knows when you're dreaming and when you're not dreaming. It is aware that you're not dreaming. That's how you get to know that you're not dreaming. So that is on 24/7. And connecting with that observer self is our challenge because of our distractions.
By the way, we see you now very well with amazing mountains behind you. Thank you so much.
Yes, I've got the Mount Fuji behind me now.
Yes, very inspiring.
That also reminds me that, when you're in the surrounding of mountains, you also feel awe, and you feel significantly smaller and diminished positively.
Mr. Rekhi, we have another question here. Maybe this is the last one before we move to Dr. Saamdu. Is in the panic, how to be self-motivated?
Is that a question for me
Yes.
in this panic?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, I think most people know the answer, how to motivate themselves. I really don't have to give them. For everybody, it is different. I have found that if we continue to look for things that we are grateful for and I also realized that we still have many things which we may not have. And truly, we are recognizing the worth of all that we had so far, which we took for granted. So that that probably helps, I guess.
Thank you so much. Well, it was fantastic. Let's keep the conversation now, moving into a bit more of mindfulness with Dr. Saamdu, and I see your camera as well on. So this is fantastic. So how can we learn more about mindfulness? Everybody talks about it, but what is mindfulness and how do we practice it?
Thank you, Luis. In fact, my greetings to all the audience out there, my love and gratitude for all of them. It's a very short presentation that I'm going to make. It is divided into 4 parts. The first part is really asking ourselves how mindfulness can discipline us. The second part is trying to see what is mindfulness. And the third part is trying to really go deeper into, to be mindful, we need to know ourselves. And then I'll start with mindful gratitude meditation at the end. So let me begin. I'll be, of course, relating with what Mr. Rekhi had to say. I wish I knew as much as he did, but at this time, unprecedented time in the human history, basically, we definitely are in a mode of confinement. There are people who feel very stuck as well. They feel very locked down. And as Mr. Rekhi said, we also sometimes feel very helpless in this process, not for ourselves maybe, but beyond ourselves, people who out there who are suffering a lot. But I think most of the time, if we take this as a possibility to unleash the opportunities, the possibilities to do something different, to change our character rather, we can create a history for ourselves by letting go of the old habits, letting go of the old things, old values, old beliefs, and welcoming new ones in our lives, new values, new habits. Being mindful is letting go of the damning things actually in our lives. We need to forgive others, and as well, we need to be ourselves, because that's something we miss. We are never ourselves. So we need to carry right intentions all the time, right efforts all the time. We need to see things as they are without our dualistic set of mind. And then, of course, like what Mr. Rekhi said, we need to be grateful to everything around us. We need to say thank you, which we forget, even to our parts of body. And of course, we have to be ourselves. We should be able to say sorry even if we are right. That's the kind of attitude we need to develop ourselves if we want to take the path of mindfulness. So what is mindfulness? As Mr. Rekhi said already, is to live in the present moment, to be aware of the present circumstances, every breathing moment. So in that, let me try and explain a little bit more. It's a process for me. It's a life's journey. Because it is in the feeling, in our understanding, and in our thoughts, how we behave ourselves, how we conduct every breathing moment in what we do. It's a dharma for those who are already enlightened beings. It's a path for them, doing right things and things right. Then, of course, mindfulness is a de-stressor as well, because we, like Mr. Rekhi said, we live in the present moment. We don't live in the past or in the future with imagination, as he put it, but we live now and here. When we live now and here in the present moment, as people say, then we are only concerned about that particular time and moment, which means our mind is totally free of all the damning things, all the things that are not required in our lives. So we become much more happier in the state of that mindfulness. It's a character. Mindfulness is character because we need to practice a lot. We can never achieve mindfulness because it's a journey, like I said in the beginning, that we do every day, every passing moment of our life. So we need to take refuge in ourselves. That's what I feel is so important. and we need to bring light to ourselves. We need to be the light ourselves, you know. And finally, I would say mindfulness is happiness, because we try to become ourselves and we don't compare with anybody. With this, let me go to narrate why we need to know ourselves to be mindful. Because if we know who we are, then we have a greater connections in our life to understand better. So for a time, let's go back to our childhood. Let's think, how did we get manufactured on this planet? So the haploid of your father, the haploid of your mother gets into the womb of the mother, which forms into a diploid, and then it's also called zygote as a cell. That cell multiplies, divides, forms into a baby. In 9 months, we are born. Now, there is a beautiful term called Bhagavan in India, and they refer Bhagavan as meaning to the God. But maybe more than half the Indians wouldn't know what it means, although they would say this word, but it has 5 elements in this. Bha stands for Bhumi, the earth. Ga stands for Gagan, the sky. There is A but never written. So Agni, fire, energy, sun. Va stands for Vayu, which is the wind, and Na for Nir, the water. Now let me try and connect. So mother, what she nourished herself, actually provided that one cell to nourish itself, to divide, to multiply, to form into a baby, and we are born. After we are born, we again continue to be nourished by the food that is grown on the planet Earth, through the minerals of the earth, the sun, the rain, the water, everything in that. So we believe that Bha, Bhumi, earth, 12% of our body about, the form, is actually the earth in form of food. Okay? Then the next word is Ga, Gagan, the sky, which we believe actually all the senses, 5 senses, derive from this universe. So we assign this 5 senses to the greater universe, to the sky as we call it. Then A stands for Agni, as I said, the fire, the heat, the sun, whatever you can name them. Now, if you look into the genetic science, they say that an average human cells in a body is 37.2 trillion cells, average cells. So which could mean that a small person could have 20 trillion and the big guy could have 60 trillion or something like this. But the average is 37.2 trillion cells. Now, mind you that every cell needs to be nourished. And genetic science also talks about that every cell has energy equivalent to 1.4 volts. So if you multiply 37.2 trillion cells with 1.4 volts, we are walking energy on this planet Earth. Probably we are one of, as individuals, the biggest hydro plant on this earth, you know. That's why I think we can think very fast, we can achieve things, we can narrate very easily, we can reach anywhere in the world just closing our eyes. We become very highly mobile through our mind, you know. So we consider that 8 to 9% of our body form is in form of energy. Then is Vayu, the wind. Now every cell needs to be nourished by oxygen. So the food is carried by oxygen to every 37.2 trillion cells. So you can imagine how much air our body constitutes. So we also believe 8 to 9% of our body form is in form of the air. Then the water, we all know scientifically also that is more than 70% of our body form is water. Now, when you combine all these 12 form as food in form of cells in our body, 8% of heat, 8% of wind, and 72% about of water, 100% of ourselves in the form, we are the same. Luis, your form and my form, Mr. Rekhi's form, Professor Manas' form, and my form, we are all the same because 100% we are out of these 5 elements on this planet. So what is different then in us? Probably then we say, we tag it to consciousness. And what is consciousness? Now, that's totally a different discussion. But let me just say that when we come as haploids from two different bodies into forming a diploid, we come with some codes. And these codes start to pick up, sense, hear out of right from that one cell onwards, from in the mother's womb and out we are born between 0 to 8 years is all that we pick up who we become as conscious human beings. So that's one reason why probably we are so different. But if you go back to the history, now about 2 years ago, British archaeologists actually found Dwarika, where Krishna lived in the Gulf of Kutch in Arabian Sea. They said that 9,000 years ago, this was submerged under earth. 30,000 years that Dwarika was living on the planet. So there is also a myth or a history that says that during that similar time, there was a huge volcano eruption in Indonesia that covered almost the whole of earth with its ash. And the people that lived are just about 1,200 people. Today, we are 7.4 billion people on this planet, which indicates why 99% of our DNA matches on this planet, because we are not different. We are from the same father and mother, ultimately at the end of the day. So therefore, unless we know who we are, it's very difficult for us to be mindful, because then we will always make mistakes. So, when you are depressed, anxious, we all know that if you go out to nature, to the riverside, to ocean, to the forest, to the garden, beautiful areas, we very quickly, our organisms connect with them and we have a calming effect. Now, genetic science also talks about that, more than 90% of genes are chimpanzee genes in us. More than 90% are frog genes are in us. The frog genes are in us. Quarter of rice genes are in us. More than 70% of banana genes are in us. You can name all these elements on this planet. Somehow their genes are with us. So therefore, our organisms connect with them. Therefore, we have this calming effect. So it's so important for us to know who we are in this life. And if we know who we are in this life, like we just learned about different types of self that we live, if we learn to be knowing our own deeper self, then probably we will be respecting others. We will respect everything that's in the nature, including that insect, because we know that's a part of us, is not different from us, because it has the same element of the earth like we have. So with this, I will end my kind of talk and get into the meditation mode. If then we could probably break into sharing and question and answer. Is that okay?
Fantastic. Looking forward to your meditation.
Okay, then probably this is, I call this 5-element gratitude meditation. I'll take you through mindfulness journey to find our oneness. So please listen to the bell. As you listen to the bell, sit comfortably and watch your breath. Feel the energy entering from the center of your palm. If you have them open upwards, let us take deep breaths in, hold it for 2 seconds, and slowly let them out. Let us do it 3 times from the nose. Please begin. Please take your mind to your feet. Feel it and ask the soles, ankles, calf muscles, thighs, the entire 2 legs to soften and relax. Thank the legs for carrying you to the places of need and love since you started to walk on them. Straighten your lower back and upper back and relax your shoulders completely. Feel the hands on your lap and ask them to soften and relax. And thank them for enabling you to carry, touch, feel, give, receive, embrace, write, and so on. Move your mind to your neck, slightly move it to find the right position for it and relax the neck. Take your thoughts to your head and see if the mind is assessing, judging, evaluating, or distracted. Recognize whatever it is doing and ask the mind to be still, clear, calm, and peaceful. Now take your mind to your heart and see what the heart is doing. Is it agitated, lonely, sad, angry, whatever are the negative feelings in it that is holding it now, recognize it and just let it go and relax. Arise love and compassion that has no boundary, expectations, but is pure, humble, and simple. Body, mind, and speech in perfect oneness, I send my heart along with the sound of the bell. May the hearers and my loved ones awaken from forgetfulness and transcend the path of anxiety and sorrow. Breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. As I inhale and exhale, my mind synchronizes with it, and I feel solid and forgiving like the Mother Earth. My profound gratitude and love to her for making me solid and free. She teaches love and compassion and enables me to see myself in the plants, animals, insects, and other human beings alike. She houses me, nourishes me, forgives me. She asks nothing in return. I take refuge in her and ask her to forgive me for any wrong I may have inflicted on her unaware. My heart touches you, Mother Earth. I bow down to you for accepting me and bringing me to realize oneness in all. I take refuge in you. My mind is floating away. I'm happy to recognize the fact and gently remind to come back to focus in breathing in and breathing out. I feel fresh and nourished. The air is passing through every cell in my body, bringing nourishment to them, repairing, replacing, rejuvenating them. I'm grateful to the air that envelops all of us and brings life to every living thing on the planet. We all breathe the same air, being nourished, feeling fresh and rejuvenated. proving us that we are children of the same universe. Knowing this, my love increases in many folds and everyone around me. Gently, I call back my mind to breathing in and breathing out. And now ask my mind to focus to our body and realize that 2/3 of it is water, which is alive. I feel pure like the morning dew, fresh, shiny, and integrated, rolling on the petal of a lotus. Breathing out, I feel glorious like the lotus itself. All life form arose from the water. You are scarce and the source of life, dear water. As we drink you every time, our gratitude is to all waters. May we be nourished forever with your love and kindness. You make us realize that you are everywhere in everything and make us same as one with the rest of the existence. We know we are one family. Thank you, water, for connecting us and giving us to realize the oneness. My mind slowly rises and begins to expand, enveloping the planet Earth and forming into the magnificent sky. As I breathe in and out, I feel my true home is here and now. It's a wonderful moment as I realize the five senses are a gift of the sky. There are no perceptions, but reality learned from them, overcoming my dualistic feeling of the mind, taking a powerful journey into myself, taking refuge in myself, and being the light of my own. Our gratitude to the sky that covers our Mother Earth as a roof for us and gives us the possibility as one to witness wonders in the universe. The sun as the wonder is shining and sharing its warmth and waking us to light from darkness, negativities, and ignorance. As I breathe in, I feel happy. As I breathe out, I put a smile on my face. As I'm alive and in this, the magic for me. Awakened, I become the light and start to shine on my family, my community, and the world, bringing them from darkness to light, awakening the humanity. I am the light. I am the light. I am the light. With the thought, I am the light, gently open your eyes. Halfway, hold it there for a little moment and open completely and come back to ourselves. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. That was beautiful. I feel like so grounded. Thank you very much, Dr. Saamdu.
Thank you.
So this is a curiosity. When you finish such a meditation and you feel so grounded, what do you recommend doing? Do you go running? Do you go jump start? Or how do you transition from being so grounded into normal life?
Well, I think we never get grounded unless and until we are 100% mindful. Like once you are in meditative posture, of course, there is a time, after a certain time, you cannot continue. You get into this blissful movement, and then you awake to see the reality of the world outside of you. And that outside starts to take stock into you, and you start to become the outside. So you cannot be in that constant mood or constant process all through. So therefore, after a certain point of time, when you wake up your mind and look around, you naturally awake to do new things again. Did I answer you? Was that the question?
Yes, yes, I love it. It's very much connected to one of the questions that I see on the chat, which is after meditation session, how do you remain connected?
Connected with self. I think that's the question. So to remain connected with self, you should not attach yourself with the outside world, but remain focused in what you're doing every moment. So becoming mindful. Once you're mindful, you remain connected with your. That will never leave you. But the problem, like I just said, is that we get up, we realize, we open our eyes, we realize there's a world totally different from inside, and we begin to connect with that. And we are no more mindful because our mind is then hijacked by the circumstances and environment outside of us. So if you want to remain within, you have to remain very mindful. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Can I have a small clarification?
Yes.
It's not really a jugglery of words, but to be mindful, do we need to be passionately detached or dispassionately attached?
Sir, I think it's both ways. One is you need to be attached because you need to attach with yourself, your inner self. But you need to be detached with everything except what you are attached with. So that's one attachment at one time happening in the mindfulness. That's what I believe. So, for example, if you're washing a pot, your mind, in how the water is flowing, how you're rolling, so you are attached to that particular event with not a lot of other events. But with a lot of other events, other things, you need to be totally detached. So you become attached to only one thing at one point of time.
The idea is to be mindful. What is more important in terms of temporal priority, the purpose or the passion? Because it seems to me that as long I do not have the drive from inside, the passion, the purpose that I need to develop that passion, probably that will not develop. Question is, between purpose and passion, what is that you value more in mindfulness?
I think purpose, sir. Purpose because every moment, passion is something that leaves you maybe through, but it's a purpose. You need to derive purpose every moment, even with meditation. Why are you really meditating? You need to really hit the purpose. So with mindfulness also, you need to have that purpose. Passion, if you are always a meditator, then I would say, okay, then you are more passionate towards your meditation because that's a part of you. But for the fact that we are not that passionate for mindfulness, for meditation. So therefore, we need to set purpose every moment in our lives. For anything that we do, we need to have a purpose. Then only we can reach there. Otherwise, we will remain in the midst of a lot of things around.
But that purpose has to be part of our motivation or commitment. Because
it
if
has
it
to be
is
commitment, sir. It has to be
okay,
commitment, because if you don't commit, then the purpose is very easy.
I
So
agree,
it has to,
because you can't be motivated every time, every day, every moment. So
right.
it need to be part of our commitment that it must be hardwired in our system. As long it
Yes,
is not hardwired in our system, probably will not be able to achieve that level. Otherwise, we'll follow for some days, then probably we'll miss it out. Thank you, sir.
right, sir. Thank you, sir. It's a discipline, sir. We need to be disciplined. Then only we can carry forward.
But that discipline, since you said, sorry about it, between flexibility and discipline, what is then more important in mindfulness? Because as long you are not flexible, you don't go out of your ego. Uh, Probably it would be very difficult to achieve that state. But then once you develop that flexibility, then probably you have to go for the discipline. So should we value flexibility first, discipline later, or discipline first, flexibility later?
I think this is quite a quite a quite a situation. In fact, sir, I think the first important thing is, of course, you need to understand what the flexibility we are focusing to, and then you need to discipline. So I think flexibility comes first before the discipline, because
Okay.
then you had the purpose and then understand where do you want to discipline your life to roll on onto the track.
Thank you.
Samduji, I think if in mindfulness, if we can stop the mind from mind wandering or being mindless, so that is a big challenge. So probably mindfulness and meditation helps the mind from wandering.
Right, thank you, sir. Mindfulness is basically when you are completely with what you are doing, sir. If your mind is just in that particular moment, then you are obviously mindful. You become very creative because your mind is totally empty of except that thing that you are focused at, and therefore you become highly creative. Things can just start to roll into you, sir. So this is why mindfulness is very powerful for students, especially. Um, you know, to be creative, to be calm, to be much more focused. It's a journey.
But then why it is not mindlessness and mindfulness? Because if you because if we have to get rid of the wandering mind, then we have to be mindlessness. So the question is that I personally believe that to do so, we need to have a mindset first, then fixed mind. As long we do not have a proper mindset, we will not be able to fix that mind. Ultimate goal is to fix the mind. Use it to your strength. If that be the
Right.
case, then probably the jugglery of words will be evaded. That mindfulness or mindlessness. A lot of people believe that they do all kinds of meditation so that their minds don't wander and they remain calm. And I mean, they call it the inorganic state of its best. That is, in death, we have got an inorganic state. But just before death, I mean, as good as death, if your mind could be made inorganic as much as possible, then probably you achieve that nirvana. That nirvana is the concept that we use, where it is a conscious coma state.
Right. Right. Thank you, sir. I believe that if you are mindful, you are mindfulness, you know.
Well, this is a
Thank
wonderful,
you so much. This is wonderful.
it's a wonderful conversation. We could be here forever.
Right.
And by the way, well, we are 10 minutes past, so probably because people were expecting an hour, maybe we can invite everybody to keep the conversation on Wednesday, because in 2 days, Professor Manas Mandal will be going deeper into mental health and how maybe we can and we have to change our perspectives during this COVID-19.
Yes.
So I want to say,
Louis, one question.
yes,
In the chat, I felt somebody was saying that he could have our video. So if you're okay to send them, that'll be fine.
yes, absolutely. Actually, for all participants, we are going to give you access to all 3 sessions. And from World Happiness Fest, we can even give you a certificate if you want when you watch all 3 sessions. But yes, you'll get access to this recording and every recording from the week. Yes. All right. Any other comments, final comments, Mr. Rekhi?
I think this has been a wonderful audience, and I want to thank each one of them for joining us. And make sure you join the next 2 sessions, which are Professor Mandal and Dr. Tia Hansara. They'll be even much better.
True, very true. Please join them. We will be there too, listening to them.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you all very, very much for joining. Thank you. See you next session.
See you.
Thank you.
Take
See you
care.
in the next
Bye.
session. Bye-bye.
And we'll have all the questions, and through this week, we'll go through many of the questions. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.